Mother was right. So here's a question. I'm sure you may have heard this before. You know, well-intentioned coworkers, people coming door to door, folks standing on the sidewalks, people in your family. Are you saved? I hope today, by the end, you will have an answer that you can give with clarity and conviction. Are you saved? I always have an immediate question, which is this one. From what? And for what? A lot of spiritual teachings in the world talk about salvation from something that's going to happen after this experience. And that depending on certain decisions you make or churches you go to or things that you've done, it's saved from something happening afterwards. Unity is a religion of the here and now. And we try to believe and teach what we think Jesus was teaching about the kingdom of heaven being at hand in this moment. And that he came to teach us about having life and life abundantly in this moment. Hell for us is a state of mind. It's a state of consciousness, as is heaven. Not a place you go to when you die. Some of you do have timeshare, I think, there. And some of us have timeshare there. And we like to go and visit from time to time, stay as briefly as possible, knowing always that that journey and that visit is an optional one, but we can. And heaven is also a thing that we have in this moment in time. So what are we saved from? I think it's pretty much to say that we are saved from our sins. Would you read that? Okay, good. So then the next question is, what is sin? Sin is the illusion of our separation from God. I don't want to talk about sin as a behavior or as a thing that we do or didn't do. Because behind everything that we did or didn't do is the thought that created us to do that thing. And always in unity, we are looking to the source for correction of error. Never to the outworking of that error, but to the source of it. And I believe if you trace every unlovely act back to its source, you will find at its source a dream, a nightmare, if you will, of our separation from God. If you are separated from God and you do not know God as your ultimate source of all good things in life, as the place of abundance from which all things are flowing to you, then you will begin to live a life of lack. And out of that lack, you will begin to worry, which is negative prayer. And you can begin to live in that lack. And if you are so inclined, you might actually be driven to steal from other people or to cheat on your taxes. I'm getting too close. Or to do those kind of things that we might call sinful behavior. But at the root of that behavior is the belief somehow that we are separated from God. And we are not. You were created as a spiritual being in the image and the likeness of God. There is no place that God cannot be. So how can you ever be separated from God? Only in our minds can that happen. Only in our minds can that happen. If you do not know God as the great fountain of love and acceptance that comes to you, if you are separated from that thought, if you are separated from that truth in your own mind, then we will begin to live as people who are unloved, people who are doing unlovely things, and we will act in unlovely ways. But at its root is this, is the illusion of our separation. So how do we deal with that? We have to begin to destroy the illusion. We have to begin to get back to a place in time when we did not know that separation. And that place for all of us was at birth. Children and infants do not know their separation. In fact, as they grow in the womb, they are truly connected to their mothers and their spiritual father. They are connected. They are one with their entire universe. And then they get born and we cut the cord and we start right away teaching them that they are separated. This is why Jesus said, unless you become as a little child, you will not enter the kingdom. Unless you be born again. Now, why would he say that? Because he wants us to come back to that place of knowing our oneness with God and all of life. Because in that place, the illusion falls apart and we are saved. Charles Fillmore talked about this. Well, the Course in Miracles said the secret of salvation is but this, that you are doing this unto yourself. The illusion was taught to us from our parents, by our churches, by our schools, by our peer groups, by our cultures. We are taught constantly that we are somehow separated from God and that there are some things we have to do, or that we're not worthy, or there's some things that aren't going to happen, and that if we don't do it, we're not going to have God's love. There is a constant teaching of separation. The Course says salvation is undoing. Undoing all those things that we learned. Charles Fillmore talks about how we undo it, how we can begin to unravel those things that we learned. He said, man's salvation from sin, sickness, pain, and death comes by his understanding and conforming to the orderly mind back of all existence. In other words, when we begin to take our own minds and we begin to turn them to the thoughts of God, to align them with the mind, a capital M, then we begin to destroy that illusion. He went on to say, thinking at random has brought man into a deplorable condition. So right now, stop thinking. It is bringing us all to a deplorable condition. Stop thinking. I dare you, stop thinking. We can't do it. It's impossible to stop thinking. We were created as thinking beings. Of course we're going to think. But he says, thinking at random. That's what I call the ping pong existence, just bouncing from event to event, going, what was that, what happened, and here I am, this big victim, just going bouncing. Instead, what we're teaching at Unity is about thinking that is focused and directed. Remember last week I talked about you thinking about your thinking? Where you could look at yourself and go, oh, look what I'm thinking. That's not thinking at random. That is thinking, conscious thinking about your life, conscious paying attention.